Hello and welcome. I'm Pallavi Sharma and you're watching BIZWORLD Weekly, a show where we bring you the top stories of the week from across the world. Let's start with the market check. Indian equity indices ended on a weak note on October 24. At close, Sensex was down 0.41% at 84,211.88 points and Nifty was down 0.37% at 25,795.15 points. Cipla, HUL, Adani Ports, Max Healthcare, Ultratech Cement were among the top losers on Nifty, while the top gainers were Hindalco, Bharti Airtel, ONGC, Shriram Finance and ICICI Bank. On sectoral front, metal and telecom indices were up 1% each, while pharma, FMCG, PSU Bank, private bank, consumer durable were down 0.5 to 1%. BSE mid-cap and small-cap indices were trading flat. Indian rupee ended flat at 87.85 per dollar on October 24. The prices of gold in India today stood at 12,507 rupees per gram for 24 karat gold and 11,464 rupees per gram for 22 karat gold. Trump has unleashed massive sanctions that will impact Russia economically. US President Donald Trump has hit Russia's top oil giants Rosneft and Lukoil with sweeping new sanctions. The move marks the toughest US action against Moscow since Trump's return to White House, and it is already rattling global energy markets. Now, the sanctions announced late Wednesday target Rosneft and Lukoil. These two companies together account for nearly 5% of the world's oil output. The US Treasury says that these firms directly fund Kremlin's war in Ukraine and that Washington is prepared to go further if Moscow doesn't agree to cease fire. According to reports, these sanctions freeze US assets belonging to these firms and cut them off from the dollar financial system. The Treasury statement called this step necessary to choke off the Kremlin's war machine, urging allies to follow suit. The European Union was quick to respond. It immediately backed the decision, adding a new package banning Russian LNG imports. The markets also reacted instantly. Oil prices had surged by as much as 5% on Thursday morning. Brent futures spiked to $64 per barrel, while US West Texas Intermediate crossed the $60 mark, the highest in over 2 weeks. Analysts said that traders fear disruption in about 3.5 million barrels per day of Russian exports. Sanctions sent both Brent and WTI above 5% in early trading before stabilizing slightly, but the upward pressure could continue if Washington enforces secondary sanctions on buyers more. Now, Trump defended this decision, and here's what he said.
Why do you believe, Mr. President, that the sanctions that you're announcing today will push Putin to the...
I don't know that they will. I think that they'll certainly have an impact. They're massive sanctions. It's sanctions on oil. The two biggest oil companies, among the biggest in the world, but they're Russian. They do a lot of oil. And hopefully it'll push, hopefully he'll become reasonable, and hopefully Zelensky will be reasonable too. You know, it takes two to tango, as they say.
But why now? Well, he is frustrated with Putin. Initially, when Trump took office, he was confident that he would end the war in 24 hours, that Putin would listen to him and would cooperate. But looks like after talking so many times, there was no progress. And if you know Trump, he is one impatient man. This time, Trump also confirmed why he cancelled his planned meeting with Vladimir Putin in Budapest, saying that the talks did not feel right and were unlikely to yield any progress. But the sanctions have wider implications, especially for India and China. The White House has been pushing both India and China to scale back purchases of Russian oil. President Donald Trump said that Prime Minister Narendra Modi personally assured him during a call that India would stop buying much oil from Russia by the end of this year. India now is the largest buyer of Russian crude since the Ukraine invasion, imports roughly 1.7 million barrels per day, and the US claims that New Delhi is gradually cutting back. But India's Ministry of External Affairs has not confirmed any such commitment, emphasizing that energy security and stable prices remain top priorities of India. As per some reports, though, Reliance Industries, India's biggest importer of Russian oil, plans to halt shipments under its long-term deal with Rosneft and is now recalibrating purchases to comply with new government guidelines. State refiners are also reviewing contracts to avoid violating US sanctions. India may have to cut its imports too, as sanctions will impact it indirectly. Even though China and India, for example, are not explicitly targeted by the recent sanctions, they could find themselves shut out of Western banking systems, insurance, or access to dollars for engaging with the companies. Now, the increased energy prices will affect businesses, which will further affect consumer prices. Meanwhile, Trump hinted earlier this week that he could meet Modi during the summit in Malaysia, but New Delhi has now confirmed that Prime Minister Modi will attend virtually and there will be someone else representing him. The two are not expected to hold any bilateral meeting in Malaysia. The absence of an in-person meeting adds another layer of intrigue to the diplomatic balancing act between Washington and New Delhi as India tries to navigate energy security while managing growing US pressure on Russian oil after being hit by the 50% tariffs. Trade talks are still on, but the two leaders since have not met face to face. The H-1B visa fee hike came as a shock for everyone. The American dream of millions was shattered. It even stirred panic among the current H-1B visa holders who thought that they might not be able to return back to the US without paying a $100,000 fee. Now, the Trump administration too faced backlash for the move. Some said that talent would move away from the US and that would move to other countries. Now, after backlash, the White House has now come up with further clarification on the fee hike. What did it say? Here's a report.
The United States has just unveiled significant changes to its H-1B visa program, a move that directly affects thousands of Indian tech professionals, international students, and American businesses relying on highly skilled foreign workers. Last month, President Donald Trump's administration introduced a proclamation imposing a steep new fee of $100,000 for each H-1B visa application, a figure far higher than the previous range of $215 to $5,000, depending on the company size and category. The new $100,000 fee, 20 to 100 times higher, sparked immediate concerns, as it threatened to shut out smaller companies and even some established ones, putting American innovation and the careers of thousands at risk. This dramatic increase also triggered widespread anxiety, especially among Indian workers who make up about 70% of all new H-1B visa recipients annually. With around 300,000 Indian professionals currently working in the US on H-1B visas, many feared the change would make it impossible for new applicants and small employers to participate. The initial announcement created confusion regarding who would have to pay the new fee, how it would be implemented, and whether existing visa holders would be impacted. After weeks of uncertainty, the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services has yet again clarified its stance. 1. The new $100,000 fee only applies to new H-1B applications filed after September 21, 2025, for people outside the United States who do not already have a valid H-1B visa. 2. If you're already in the U.S. on a valid visa, like an F-1 student visa, L-1 intra-company transfer visa, or a current H-1B, you are exempt. This means you can renew, extend, or change status to H-1B without paying the new fee. 3. International students who are graduating and transitioning from an F-1 to H-1B within the U.S. are also exempt, as are current H-1B holders applying for extensions or renewals. 4. H-1B holders can continue to travel in and out of the U.S. without additional restrictions under this policy. For Indian techies and students, the clarification brings huge relief. Without the exemption, experts warned the new fee could have effectively killed the H-1B program by pricing out smaller companies and startups that depend on international talent. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick defended the move, saying it was designed to attract high earners and discourage low earners from taking jobs from Americans. However, with the exemption, most currently valid visa holders and those changing status within the U.S. are protected. So, what happens next? For employers wanting to bring in new talent from abroad, the steep fee will require a double take on hiring budgets. Indian officials are studying the implications, while U.S. officials argue the change will attract high earners and discourage low earners from taking jobs that could go to Americans. Debate continues, but for now, the majority of those already on the H-1B journey in the U.S. are in the clear.
China is challenging the dollar dominance yet again. Beijing's drive to elevate the yuan, also known as renminbi, as global currency is accelerating rapidly. It is deploying multi-pronged strategy that spans commodity, currency swaps, financial architecture and diplomatic leverage. One of the most groundbreaking moves has been the deal between Chinese buyers and Australian mining giant BHP. Starting in the last quarter of 2025, 30% of BHP's iron ore sales to China will be settled in yuan rather than US dollars. This deal, covering nearly 90 million tons of iron ore annually worth up to $10 billion, signifies more than just a currency switch. It tightly integrates lending, currency hedging, and payment systems in Chinese currency, allowing Beijing to influence global iron ore pricing while insulating itself from dollar fluctuations. This marks a strategic shift. Iron ore, one of the last major commodities priced predominantly in dollars, is gradually now moving towards yuan payment. Over time, Chinese steel producers increasingly sourced iron ore from domestic markets priced in yuan, enhancing Beijing's control over key raw materials. Beyond commodities, China is also reshaping global finance through currency swaps and loan conversions that ease debt burdens on developing nations, all while knitting them closer to the yuan. Ethiopia, which has over $5 billion in Chinese loans, is now converting much of this debt from US dollars to yuan, halving interest rates from 7.25% to nearly 3%. Similar deals with Kenya, Sri Lanka, and Hungary save billions in dollars annually and deepen yuan's footprint in emerging economies. Basically, pay your loans using yuan and save on interest. Bloomberg reports say that Beijing's latest phase of yuan internationalization comes with high costs as China extends long-term financing and guarantees to foreign partners hesitant to hold yuan. Now, this approach involves banks like People's Bank of China and policy lenders providing liquidity, stability, assurances, and sometimes direct currency stabilization mechanisms. Now, President Xi Jinping's vision for multipolar monetary system underpins these costly but calculated moves, as per Bloomberg report. China is also eyeing regional financial integration. It is in talks of a three-way currency swap facility with Japan and South Korea that could transform intra-Asian trade, enabling settlements in local currencies and reducing the dependence on dollar. This will be a huge hit on the dollar, given Japan and South Korea are some of the US's leading trading partners, but they are too hit with Trump's tariffs. And to complement this, China has built the Cross-Border Interbank Payment System, or CIPS, its own global payment network that bypasses dollar-based systems like SWIFT. But can yuan replace the dollar? Well, not for now, because dollar is still widely used, but it is definitely going to challenge the dollar's dominance for now. By late 2025, the yuan has risen to become the fourth most used currency globally, behind the pound, accounting for around 4.7% of international payments, up from just 1.9% in 2020. It had even in mid-2024 overtaken the euro in usage for several months. Yuan's rise is a threat for Trump and the dollar, as one of his biggest promises was to protect the dollar, but Beijing is slowly taking away dollar's king title. We'll just have to see how successful it is in doing so. Sane Takaichi took charge as the Prime Minister of Japan this week. She is the first female Prime Minister of Japan, and some say that it will make way for more women to enter politics. But will it? Will Sane Takaichi bring in gender reforms? Because her cabinet itself has 2 women. Our next report tells you more.
Sanae Takaichi's election as Japan's first female prime minister marks a historic milestone in a country long dominated by male political leadership. She is a veteran conservative politician, closely associated with former Prime Minister Shinzo Abe and often compared ideologically to Margaret Thatcher. Her rise reshapes Japan's political landscape, signaling a continuation of traditional conservative policies coupled with an unprecedented female presence at the highest level of government. Takaichi's leadership is expected to emphasize fiscal stimulus, national security assertiveness, and social conservatism. While her election shatters a significant glass ceiling, her stance on gender issues is complex. Japan ranks 118th out of 148 countries in the 2025 Global Gender Gap Report, making it the lowest among the group of 7 G7 nations. Despite being a leading global economy, Japan shows poor performance, especially in political empowerment, where women hold only about 16% of parliamentary seats and female ministers remain few. The cabinet formed by Takaichi includes just 2 women, reflecting the broader trend of low female representation in senior government and corporate roles. But why do women face hurdles in Japan? Japan's deeply rooted cultural expectations often place the responsibility of child rearing, elder care, and household duties primarily on women. These norms have made it particularly difficult for women to pursue demanding political careers. In Japan's male-dominated political environment, networks and career opportunities are often built in informal, male-only settings. Takaichi herself described this experience in her early career, recounting the isolation she faced when male colleagues conducted late-night discussions in clubs or saunas. But will Takaichi change this? For many, Takaichi's success marks an overdue breakthrough in a society where women have long been underrepresented in positions of power. Supporters view her as a symbol of resilience in an environment dominated by male elites. Despite being the first woman to hold the office, Takaichi does not project herself as a feminist reformer. Critics argue that she has opposed changing certain laws affecting women, such as the law requiring married couples to share the same surname and restrictions on imperial succession to males only. Takaichi has cultivated a reputation as a tireless worker, once declaring that she would work and work and work and work. Critics argue that this ideal reinforces Japan's entrenched overwork culture, a societal norm that has often marginalized women, who already bear disproportionate domestic responsibilities. Long working hours, frequent after-hours meetings, and corporate socializing have long discouraged many women from pursuing senior positions. This has raised skepticism among gender equality advocates, who fear her tenure may preserve existing patriarchal structures, rather than dismantle them.
Years after transforming the internet with ChatGPT, making AI a new normal, OpenAI has returned with an even bolder move, a product that could change how we browse the web itself. Now, it is competing with Google Chrome, and how? Its new product is called ChatGPT Atlas, and it's not your regular browser. It doesn't help you search the web, it can actually use the web for you, more like your personal assistant. So what's so special about it, and why did this announcement cost Google almost $150 billion in market value? Well, Google Chrome is the go-to browser right now. It has your email, your YouTube, Google search, and everything else that you need. Atlas, on the other hand, introduces a completely different approach to browsing. Gone is the traditional address bar. Instead, the users can simply converse with the internet. Sam Altman says that it was intentional. So now you don't have to type, say, the cheapest flight to New York. You can just ask the browser, find me the cheapest flight to New York between 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. and book it. And the browser will do it for you automatically. Now that's why we said it's like your personal assistant. OpenAI calls the shift from navigation to delegation. In other words, you don't just surf pages, you instruct the browser to get things done. Now let's talk about what Atlas can actually do for you. It has a ChatGPT sidebar right inside every tab, capable of summarizing articles, analyzing data, or comparing products while you read. It can also remember your preferences, suggesting exactly what you need when you revisit a topic. Its headline feature is Agent Mode, a digital helper that can perform entire workflows. It can fill out forms, shop online, plan trips, and navigate complex websites end to end. Professional users can also highlight text in emails or documents and have ChatGPT instantly rewrite or refine it. It even supports Omni Search, which can pull not just text but also videos, images, and news stories in one command. And on the privacy side, you decide what ChatGPT can access, manage browsing memories, or go fully incognito at any time. Here's the twist though. Beneath all of this innovation, Atlas actually runs on Chromium, the same open source engine that powers Google Chrome and Microsoft Edge. So the world's newest Google competitor was built using Google's own technology. Developers have even confirmed that Chrome extensions also work flawlessly on Atlas. In other words, OpenAI has built an advanced AI assistant on top of Chrome's original skeleton. But why did Google panic? Well, because OpenAI just took a swing right at Google's empire, search and ads. If Atlas handles your queries, bookings, and answers directly, it cuts Google's advertising revenue pipeline, and that's one big piece of its revenue pie. Moments after Sam Altman's presentation, Google's parent company Alphabet saw shares drop nearly 5%, erasing roughly $150 billion in value. And with OpenAI already commanding over 800 million weekly ChatGPT users, analysts say that this could be the first serious challenge to Chrome's 17-year dominance, dominating 90% of search market. Meanwhile, rivals are scrambling to respond too. Google is accelerating its Gemini 3.0 integration into Chrome, Perplexity is pushing its new Comet browser, and Microsoft continues to evolve Copilot mode on Edge. But can it actually replace Google Chrome? It will not be easy. Well, for now, it is only compatible with your Mac. Atlas has just started walking into this space, but Google Chrome has been here for years. Google's ecosystem for now is still unmatched because of the simple and easy formats, integrating everything in one place from docs to emails. While the tech savvy may try to get their hands on it, others may stick to their comfort zone. What do you think about this? Let us know in the comments. India's national capital is back in the news just like every year for being one of the worst cities to breathe in. Delhi's AQI numbers are in red. People are breathing smoke. The condition has worsened. Some blame stubble burning, some blame Diwali. The politicians are blaming each other. AQI numbers are varying. Indian scales show 300 to 400, while international scales show 1000 to 2000. But the real question is, why does Delhi breathe polluted air every year this time? What is the solution, and what's behind the difference in AQI numbers? Here's a report.
Delhi's air quality has plunged to hazardous levels following this year's Diwali celebrations, shrouding the city in a dense smog that triggered health alarms and breathed new life into its annual pollution crisis. However, confusion arose when different sources reported widely varying air quality index numbers, with some Indian monitors showing values around 400, while international platforms recorded figures soaring beyond 2,000. What's behind this discrepancy? The readings are different because of the way the AQI is calculated. The Air Quality Index, or AQI, is a single number measuring pollution levels and associated health risks. India's Central Pollution Control Board, CPCB, calculates AQI using advanced government-grade monitors considering 8 pollutants, including PM2.5 and PM10. Their scale caps readings at 500, categorizing anything above severe. Meanwhile, platforms like IQ Air use methods based on US EPA standards, which extend the AQI scale beyond 500 to reflect extreme pollution levels. Furthermore, IQ Air aggregates data from various private and low-cost sensors alongside official sources, leading to sometimes higher readings. But why is Delhi breathing polluted air? Delhi's annual pollution surge stems from a toxic blend of factors converging as winter nears. Post-Diwali fireworks release plumes of particulate matter deep into the air. At the same time, smoke from crop residue burning in Punjab, Haryana, and Uttar Pradesh drifts into the capital. Cold temperatures and low winds then trap this pollution closer to the ground, preventing dispersion and leading to thick smog. Interestingly, a recent report shows that farm fires in Punjab and Haryana dropped by 77% this year compared to last year. But Delhi's air still worsened after Diwali. Why? The report reveals that the main contributors this year were not just crop burning, but also firecracker emissions from the festival, emissions from vehicles and factories, dust stirred up by construction, and household heating using coal and wood. In short, Delhi's air remains in the very poor to severe category across multiple official readings, regardless of which AQI number you see. The takeaway: both Indian and international indices point to one stark reality: breathing this air poses serious health risks. To protect yourself, experts advise minimizing outdoor activity, especially for children, elderly, and people with respiratory issues. Using air purifiers indoors, and supporting policy efforts aimed at cleaner fuels, better emission controls, and reducing crop burning.
If you thought the robberies in Bollywood movie Dhoom were thrilling with their high-speed chases and heists, imagine a real-life jewel heist at one of the world's most famous museums, the Louvre in Paris. But unlike the Bollywood blockbuster, the robbery is draped in cold precision and priceless history. On October 19, a gang of skilled thieves pulled off a daring robbery at Louvre Museum, home to French crown jewels, striking just as the museum opened to visitors. The robbers arrived in a truck equipped with a mechanical cherry picker ladder, which they used to reach a second-floor balcony overlooking the Seine River. Two of the thieves climbed up using power tools to cut through the window and smashed display cases holding historic and priceless jewelry. The entire theft took just about 4 minutes. The haul included 8 key items: a tiara, necklace, and earring set from Queen Mary Emily and Queen Hortense, an emerald necklace and earrings worn by Empress Mary Louise, and tiara and a large brooch belonging to Empress Eugenie. While the thieves tried to steal 9 items, they dropped the diamond and emerald adorned crown of Empress Eugenie during their escape. It was found damaged nearby. Police and prosecutors estimate the value of stolen jewels at roughly 88 million euros, about $102 million. But the loss is more than monetary. These jewels are treasures of France's royal and imperial history, their cultural and historic value unparalleled, a national heritage blow that's far greater than the price tag. French authorities have launched an intensive investigation. The thieves fled on 2 motorbikes, escaping before the police could respond. Investigators suspect a team of 3 or 4 professionals and have gathered critical forensic evidence left behind: 2 angle grinders, a walkie-talkie, gloves, helmets containing DNA, and the stolen truck. The stolen jewels have been listed in Interpol's Stolen Works of Art database with detailed descriptions and photos distributed globally, urging law enforcement and the public to report any sightings. Experts warn that the thieves may attempt to dismantle these pieces or melt down the precious metals, putting the jewels' recovery at a risk. And the story does not end here. Just hours after Louvre heist, another robbery took place at another museum nearby. Though details are emerging slowly, it appears that the thieves targeted valuable artifacts here as well. The timing suggests a possible link or coordinated thefts. So while the world is still grappling with this audacious crime, the hunt is on to bring the perpetrators to justice and recover a precious piece of history. The Dhoom-style heist has shaken the art and museum world, a stark reminder that even our most treasured heritage can be vulnerable. If you are on the internet right now, you must have heard of this viral claim that Earth has 2 moons. It says NASA confirms it. Well, it's new information for many, but is it real? It may be true, but the details might not be true. It is not a moon. It is a quasi-moon, or say a cosmic partner to Earth, a small asteroid called 2025 PN7. Is it dangerous, and what is it? Our next report tells you more.
Recent buzz online claims that Earth has a second moon. But what exactly is this mysterious new moon? The object at the center of these reports is called 2025 PN7, an asteroid discovered by researchers at the University of Hawaii using the Pan-STARRS telescope. Although this space rock recently made headlines as Earth's second moon, it's not a moon in the traditional sense. Instead, it's classified as a quasi-moon or quasi-satellite. So, what's a quasi-moon? Unlike our real moon, which orbits Earth due to gravity, a quasi-moon doesn't orbit Earth directly. Instead, it shares Earth's orbit around the Sun, moving in a synchronized pattern that makes it appear to follow Earth. Imagine 2 boats floating downstream side by side, but not physically tied together. That illustrates the relationship between Earth and 2025 PN7. In fact, it has been traveling alongside Earth in this way for about 6 decades and is expected to continue until around 2083. 2025 PN7 is quite small, around 60 feet wide, roughly the size of a large bus. Because of its size and distance, it's very faint and hard to detect with amateur equipment, and could only be spotted recently using powerful telescopes optimized for finding such near-Earth objects. But is it dangerous? Scientists are clear. 2025 PN7 poses no threat to Earth. Its closest approach is about 186,000 miles away, which is roughly 10 times farther than the distance between Earth and the Moon. It has no impact on tides, gravity, or any planetary activities. It's simply a harmless cosmic neighbor that offers researchers a unique chance to study asteroid dynamics and orbital mechanics up close. Astronomers estimate that 2025 PN7 will stick around Earth's orbit for 126 years. In 2083, it will depart and drop its status as a quasi-moon. So why do scientists care about quasi-moons? Because they serve as natural laboratories for understanding how near-Earth objects move, interact, and sometimes pose hazards. Tracking these visitors helps improve our knowledge of the solar system and enhances preparations against potential asteroid threats in the future. Additionally, they reveal the complex, ever-changing nature of Earth's celestial neighborhood.
The global race for critical minerals, the metals that power everything from smartphones to fighter jets, just turned into the next battleground of US-China rivalry. This week, US President Donald Trump and Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese signed a landmark $8.5 billion critical minerals deal, one that could reshape global supply chains and challenge China's monopoly over the rare earth minerals. For decades, China has dominated the rare earth market, controlling almost 90% of global refining. These minerals, lithium, gallium, and rare earth oxides, are essential to produce defense technologies, semiconductors, and even electric vehicles. Beijing's edge isn't just about more rocks. It's also because it has massive refining industry. Even Western mined minerals often go to China for processing before ending up in American fighter jets or iPhones, and that's what Washington now wants to change. Under the new US-Australia critical minerals framework, both countries will invest at least $1 billion each over 6 months to launch an $8.5 billion ready-to-go pipeline of mining and refining projects. Among these projects is a gallium refinery in Western Australia, expected to supply 10% of the world's gallium used in radar and semiconductors. Another initiative, the Fura Nolans project, also could deliver 5% of global rare earth production once fully operational. The framework also includes technology sharing, export coordination, and even a joint supply security task force co-led by US Department of Energy and Australia's Resources Ministry. Trump called it a historic step towards American mineral independence, insisting that within a year, the US will have more rare earths than it knows what to do with. But experts and analysts are far less optimistic. China isn't standing still. Just last month, Beijing tightened export rules on minerals and alloys containing rare earth magnets, even if processed partly overseas. Economists say that that's a warning shot, a reminder that China still holds the levers in this trade war. A report from Goldman Sachs estimates that even a 10% disruption in global rare earth supply chains could wipe out $150 billion in US industrial output. That's the leverage Washington is trying to break, and Australia is key to that strategy. Australia sits on the 4th largest rare earth reserves in the world and already supplies half of global lithium, a mineral vital for EV batteries. Aligning Australia's mineral wealth with Washington's investment power is what both leaders are calling a win for economic and defense security. But there is a catch. Mining is only part of the process. It takes years and billions more to build the refining plants that can match China's industrial scale. As one Australian geologist warned, even with full commitment, we are a decade away from real independence. China, meanwhile, has responded sharply. Its foreign ministry said resource-rich nations should avoid weaponizing minerals and warned that supply chain cooperation should not target third countries. Analysts believe that's directed squarely at this US-Australia push and the growing alignment under AUKUS. So will this deal end China's dominance? Not anytime soon, but it marks the most ambitious Western attempt yet to build parallel rare earth ecosystem. In short term, it's about reducing China's leverage. In long term, it's about securing control over the minerals that define the future: energy, defense, and technology itself. The new geopolitical gold rush isn't for oil or gas anymore. It's for the invisible metals buried deep in the earth. That's all for this week. I will see you in the next. Like, share, and subscribe to ET Now for more such news and views.